Welcome to the Boone Podcast. I'm Bret Boone, and today on the program, I sit down with an all-star and a World Series champion.
I sacrificed a lot to come to New York. I wanted to be a part of something special.
He made me a better player, a better person.
Roy Halladay is my guy, man. He was tough.
Welcome to the Bret Boone Podcast. I am Bret Boone, and today I'm joined by a familiar voice to a lot of the baseball fans out there. He's calling the Bronx his new home. It's a new home. And you'll be hearing him all year long broadcasting Yankees baseball. He's a friend of the podcast. We've been friends for a long time. Our ties in Seattle. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Sims. David, thank you for making time for the Bret Boone Podcast today.
Bret, a pleasure. Good to see you, man. And nice. You cut me in a day off. It worked out well.
Perfect.
Glad to be here.
You know, as I mentioned at the top, this is a new gig for you. You're moving from Seattle to New York, but this isn't unfamiliar territory for you. You started back with the Daily News. You worked for you're back with WFAN, which you have formerly have ties with. Mariners fans, they loved you for your time there.
I appreciate that. I love them too, man. It was good stuff.
Yeah. Is it going to be strange for you this year, the first time the Mariners come to town? Or I don't know what the schedule. I haven't checked the schedule yet, but I don't know if you go to them or they come to you. Is that going to be a little bit surreal for you think?
Well, it'll be great to see a lot of familiar faces. I mean, you know, the team didn't have much turnover, and obviously the broadcasters are pretty much everybody's the same, maybe in different roles. So it'll be great to see them. It was always great to see them when you come back and start a new season. Yankees will be in Seattle May 12, 13, 14. They come here right before the All-Star break. I think it's right before the All-Star break. So will it be strange? Yeah, a little bit. But I tell you what, Boone, first broadcast on radio in spring training. And 4 times in 2 games, I said, and the Mariners, I mean the Yankees. So I said $10 in the pool there for I said it to Suzyn Waldman, my partner. And the 4th time I did, I said, that's another $10. I said, yeah, that pot's starting to get big, but I won't let it get any bigger than that.
Yeah, it was kind of weird for me the other day. I'm driving around, doing my errands, and I tune in, see how the Yanks are doing. I hear David Sims, and I'm going, this is a little strange for me hearing you calling Yankee games. You're in the booth with Suzyn. Who's been on the podcast before. You're in a big seat, taking over John Sterling, Mel Allen. This is a historic seat. I mean, it's when I think of baseball and from a broadcast perspective, the seats, I mean, right now, I think you're kind of in the top one.
Yeah, I would think. Yeah, I think so too. And it's here's the thing. Every day, like before you called, like the last hour, I was on the phone with a couple of baseball people. I'm doing some homework on Arizona. That's the next team up. I'm not really thinking so much about the history and all that kind of stuff. Hey, I got a job to do. I love the job. I think I'm pretty good at it. Other people think I'm pretty good at it. So let's just nail that, not worry about legacy and all that stuff. Yeah, I'm in the same, maybe not in the same paragraph, probably maybe on the same page, certainly in the same chapter, with Mel Allen, Red Barber, John Sterling, who was it? Spencer Russell, a whole bunch of guys that did games. But it is a thrill. I talked to a guy who, one of my high school teammates, we ran an I formation of football. I was his fullback. He was a tailback, and I blocked for him, and he got 1,000 yards. So we've been boys for a long time, and he was really digging seeing some of the highlights and hearing the highlights in this new gig. It's a blast. There's no question about it. And again, let me just say this too. And being back home, you got to remember when I was doing Seattle, I still kept this home here in New York. And we had a 1-bedroom back in Seattle, so we never moved out there. I mean, it's certainly a big connection, but this is tremendous. A, doing the Yankees, and B, being home, or A, being home doing the Yankees, or however you want to look at it.
For me during the season, once the season starts, I do a weekly show with Softy, as you're familiar with, KJ.
Oh yeah,
up in Seattle, and to report on the Mariners. Then I will come on WFAN time to time with those guys to talk Yankee baseball or Mets baseball, whatever it may be that week. There is a difference. What's the biggest difference you see from West Coast baseball versus East Coast?
East Coast, been born in Philly, which is Philly and Boston, I would say, is an entry, with New York a very close second in terms of the most intense sports towns in the country, where they care 365, 24/7. They want to know everything, they feel everything, they react to everything. And like we say in Philly, they're going to love your heart and hate your heart. And that's pretty much the scenario on the I-95 Eastern Corridor, Northeast Corridor here. And I'd like to sometimes include Washington, Baltimore, Philly, New York, Boston. It's a tough grind, man, and they will get on your ass if you're not giving effort. They want max effort all the time, and hopefully you're going to be productive. If you don't give max effort, you're in trouble. I like, I mean, and people are like, even today, are flipping out about this whole torpedo bat thing, which I'm just like, enough already. I'm sure you want to talk about that, but the difference I just think is the intensity that's minute to minute, which I find significantly more intense than on the West Coast. Southern California, you got the great weather to deal with. You live down there, went to school down that way. Um, Bay Area has this thing up in the Pacific Northwest. We have great summers and it's a great outdoor situation. Here, it's we live on top of each other, and it's every man for himself in a lot of regards. So the competition is fierce, and it always has been, and always will be.
I grew up in Jersey, till I got to high school, and like you said, I went to school on the West Coast. Played a lot of my games in Seattle, with a pit stop in Cincinnati and Atlanta and San Diego. But yeah, most of my games have kind of been West Coast. I always was kind of, as a player, and don't get me wrong, love my time. I'm known as a Seattle Mariner. Love that city. Appreciated all the love I got from the city. It was really, truly amazing, especially in the times I was playing there in the early 2000s when that city was
Right.
on fire. But I was always a little envious of the East Coast teams when we'd go to New York. When I'd step into that, I'd get in my hotel in Manhattan and just step out for the day to go on a walk and just hear the chatter from the fan just walking down the street yelling at me. And I loved it because it was pretty intense, but at the same time, these guys, they weren't there to harm me. They were just there to let me know, hey, we're going to be coming for you tonight,
Yeah.
whether it was in the Bronx or whether at the time we were playing in Shea Stadium. Same type of feeling in Philly. Man, these guys are crazy, but as a player, I love that. I love that we
You gotta
can't
like the way
stand.
they care. They
Oh, it's
care.
unbelievable. And
They
they
care.
appreciate good play. If you kick their ass as an opponent, I'll tell you what, they'll salute you. But if you have a rough day in the Bronx, they're going to let you know all the way till you get on that bus and get back to your
Right.
hotel that you had a rough day.
Well, here's the other thing too. In addition to, if you do have a rough day and you don't handle it well, that just makes it tenfold worse.
Right.
And if you come back and if you're a battler, I mean, where do you think Stan Musial got his nickname, Stan the Man? Because in Brooklyn, he was killing the Dodgers in the 40s and 50s. Here comes that man again, and they were very respectful of him. And it's the same like when Michael Jordan would come to town here with the Knicks. I mean, they're scared to death of him, but appreciate him. Hey, man, you're the best, and we'll give you your props. Um, that's the intensity, and I think when I'm broadcasting a game, and particularly now being back home, I always had a good sense of energy when I was in Seattle, and it's up several ticks. And because I want to deliver and I want to portray the moment to moment excitement of of Yankee baseball.
Yeah, and watching my brother go through the last 7 years in New York, I'm very proud of him for how he's handled everything. But you
Yeah.
do see his scrutiny is at a different level. And we talk time to time, and he'll ping some things off me. Bret, what do you think? And I said, what do I think? I think you're in the best gig in the world, and part of that is being on the hot seat every single day. I said, but if I were to go manage and I could pick my play, I want to be on the hottest burner I can possibly be on. And I talk to him all the time. I said, you win one time there, once. I said, you got the key to the biggest city in the country for the rest of your life. I said, I do you want to go somewhere else? I wouldn't. I don't know why you'd ever want to leave
Hey,
pinstripes. Get on the burner, take it every day, because these fans, when you win, boy, you're going to hear it. And the expectation is so much higher than, and I think in 2025, kind of an unrealistic expectations with the parity in sports, and it used to be the evil empire. Now you've got some teams, the Dodgers doing what they're doing, the Mets doing what they're doing. It's not the old days where you could just win championship after championship after
No.
championship. It's modern day.
But
So I think I have an appreciation for
here's
the. Go ahead.
here's the thing. They're very much in the mix. This is a good ball club. Yeah, they
They're good.
lost Garrett Cole, and Hill's not going to come back till probably, you know, I'm thinking more realistically after the All-Star break. So yeah, add Hill back, and then you've got opportunities for Schmidt to get healthy. Clark Schmidt, the Warren kid who looks really good. Carlos Carrasco's having a rebirth. Marcus Stroman, he's 5'7". He's a little spark plug. He's gonna give you 5-6 innings of two run, 3 run ball. Not gonna walk the ballpark. He's unafraid. Max Fried had a bad outing the other day, well below his norm. When he's starting to get that, he'll start getting that breaking ball over with some consistency. So they have pitching, the bullpen, Devin Williams at the back end, Weaver, and several other pieces to go in there. And then the hitting. All right, Giancarlo's not available for a time period, if at all. But I know it's only three games, and your brother accurately said this is overreaction week.
Hmm.
There's no question about that. They're not going to hit 15 homers and score, was it 36 runs every 3 games? But it just shows you the potential and why they're very much in the mix in that American League East. And then once you get to the playoffs, as you know, anything can and will happen. So I like where the Yankees are right now. And if they stay, the rest of the guys, if they can, just asking for a lot, if everybody, all the big boys can stay healthy, specifically Judge, they're going to be fine.
Yeah, I think, and I think you're right. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not a big deal. You lose Cole out of the gate. That's huge. That's huge. But you got a Max Fried, who's a guy you had. Rodon had a good outing on opening day. I laugh about the Stroman situation. 6 weeks ago, he's going, "I'm a starter. I'm a starter." He's sixth starter. Now he's a third starter. But I agree with you on Stroman. He's very at this stage of his career. He's always been that guy that had something to prove, has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, but he's a pro, and he could pitch. Uh, so I like him being in the mix. You're going to get Heel back at the All-Star break, like you said. Giancarlo Stanton's big for me, though. I said it a year ago. They had Soto, they had Aaron Judge, the two MVPs, kind of back to back. But I always said that the mere presence of a Giancarlo Stanton in the middle of that lineup is what makes him go around. Now you've got some additions. You've got a Goldschmidt, you've got a Cody Bellinger, both off to good starts. Jazz Chisholm had a great run, and he actually, Dave, last year when they traded for him, and I watched him down the stretch the second half with the Yankees. I think the Yankees got a better player than they even expected they were getting.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Chisholm's off to a good start, but if Bellinger, Goldschmidt, and Chisholm can up their game, I think Volpe's going to be a better player. They've got some young players. Ben Rice, I heard, looked great in spring training. We'll see what he's got to offer. This is going to be a formidable team. Now, I think the Red Sox got a little bit better. They're not off to a great start with the Devers and the Bregmans switching up over there. Orioles really didn't improve. You got rid of Burns. They still
No
got a
pitching.
talented team,
That's-
right? You lose a
significant
Corbin Burns
pitching,
at the
yeah.
top, right? You lose a Corbin Burns at the top of your rotation. So I think this division, it's very strong, but at the same time, it's up for granted. And I think this Yankee team get off to a good start, get the guys back healthy, your big boys, and I think they're going to be right in the mix all year, and definitely a playoff team.
Oh, no question. This is going to be a fun year, and I really like the back end of the bullpen. Well, I like the bullpen as a whole. To say, not just Weaver and Williams. So, I'm encouraged by the fact that Paul Goldschmidt, a veteran guy, coming off a very good second half and a very, not a good first half, but said he went back to fundamentals, and so far so good. Early going. I know it's only 3 games, but the signs show that he's very much back into it. The other thing too, don't underestimate the fact that they're more athletic this year. Volpe and Jazz up the middle. They've bonded terrifically. Goldie is a good for big man. Runs first to third as well as anybody. So does Judge. I saw examples of that over the weekend. They manufactured some runs. There were 2 or 3 instances in Sunday's game. They manufactured runs. Deep fly ball for runners at first and second. Runners tagged and scored. I moved to second and third. One scored on a wild pitch, and then it was a sac fly. I mean, they didn't do much of that last year. This is going to be a big difference if they can. The home run ball is going to always be there, especially in this ballpark, and especially with Jazz can yank it down the right field line. Judge can get it out of any ballpark. So can Goldie, and and Austin Wells showing some pop. So he had a home run the first AB on a 2-0 pitch, and then he had another home run the opposite way. I think the next game. So I think they're in good shape.
And you got a guy, I'm not easily impressed by anything. There's so many great players out there. I played with and against so many great players, but I continue to be Aaron Judge when healthy. And I texted Aaron the other day. I'm just sitting there and I'm listening to the game, and Judge hit his fourth. He hit three the day before, hit his fourth, and I just said I'm every day I wake up, Arnie, and I'm more impressed at how good Aaron Judge is. No disrespect to the Otanis and the Mookie Betts and the Freemans out there in L.A., but when push comes to shove offensively, Aaron Judge is the best hitter on the planet. And it's just, for me, end of story. This is the only guy, and I said this a few years ago, I said if everything goes perfect for Aaron Judge in a perfect season, he's the only guy on this walking this planet right now that I think can hit 330 plus and hit 70 home runs.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I think
no doubt.
it's unbelievable.
Here's the thing. You got to respect the fact that he's a smart hitter. Yeah, he's going to hit a lot of balls out of the ballpark, but with 2 strikes, he can go the other way. And at home, it's only, let's see, closer at the straightaway right center field alley. They don't have a number there, but that's only got to be 365. That's a heck of an advantage for him. It's 385, a little bit closer as you get to center field, 409 straight away. He can leave the yard any place in that ballpark. So, yeah, we're talking an exceptional hitter and a guy who's super valuable as a leader and as as a presence in that 2-hole, 2-hole or a 3-hole, wherever they play.
Yeah, I think and I think, like you said, from the leader perspective, I think the torch kind of got passed from Jeter, who was kind of the go-to guy. I couldn't imagine a better guy passing that torch to than an Aaron Judge, and I think he's doing a great job. All right, I got
it. He has a lot of the same traits as Jeter. He's a good leader. He's not over the top. He's very sincere. He'll answer questions, in the good times and the bad times. So as a media member, I give him big credit on that.
And he has an uncanny ability to always say the right thing, which is important in New York. It's important. Something off topic. How was spring training for you this year? You're used to going down to Peoria. You're in Florida. It's a different animal. I had about half my spring trainings in Florida. And by the way, I don't know what your feelings are. I couldn't stand it. I didn't like it. It's completely different. You got these long trips. You're on the freeway, and there's traffic everywhere. It wasn't that Arizona vibe for me. But that was my experience. What do you think?
Same experience. You get spoiled. For 18 seasons, I always tell my friends, the national writers that would come over, having been in Florida, and the first thing, good to see you. Glad to be here. And the worst trip here in Arizona, if in traffic, if it happens, is an hour to get from one ballpark to another. And guys were saying I can stay in the same hotel. In Florida, I made 2 trips. One on the bus to Lakeland, and one where Suzyn and I drove to Port Charlotte. Hour and a half, about 2 hours and change coming back. You can have it. No. And I see why veteran players don't make that cross the state trips. You don't want any part of that. No way, no how. The difference this year for me was we only did, out of 30 games, we did 7 broadcasts. In Seattle, we did all the games on radio, and 7 or 8, anywhere from 6 to 8 on TV. I think that was the difference. And I had to do, and I'm still doing some catch-up work, meeting guys. But in the past in Seattle, by the time the second week was over, I knew everybody. I'd met everybody, shaking hands with them and introduced myself, interacting, that whole thing. Just different. But I'm with you. The spring training experience.
You can have it. You can have
one of my favorites.
You can have it. Have you spent much time with Aaron?
Yeah. A couple times at the cages. It was interesting when I found out years ago, when I was still with the Mariners, and I think we were here at Yankee Stadium. And somehow somebody, I don't know who told me, but he says, Aaron, of course, grew up in the Philly area, and he's an Eagles fan. I went, oh, man. And we were in here like in August, September one time. I said, fly, Eagles, fly. And he looked at me like, he says, yeah, fly, Eagles, fly. And boom, it took off from there. Yeah, we've had some good conversations. We've had him on during spring training. He would come on for an inning or half inning. And he was very kind, very gracious, welcomed me to the broadcast, welcomed me to the Yankee family. Really enjoyed that. And Nice. You guys are a good duo, and he's a good dude. I really like him. I had met him when he was doing some. I also had previously met him when he was doing ESPN. And I remember meeting him. I think the year before he got the gig, and the Mariners were actually on a Sunday night game in Chicago at Wrigley, and that's where I met him. He and one of his sons. Yeah, good guy.
Um, what are you going to miss most about Seattle? You spent a lot of time there.
That's 18 seasons. Well, we left a lot of good friends there. That's going to be interesting. That's one. So many people are trying to get on the calendar for when we go back there in May. We're gonna stay at the hotel. But I got my son and his fiance. Then we got several friends. I'll see a whole bunch of. I'll get to the ballpark early, try to get my work done early because I know there's going to be a lot of hi, how are yous, and hey, what's up? How you doing? That whole thing. So I miss the food scene there. The food scene's really good. I miss the spectacular, July 4th to like Labor Day weather when it's the weather there is second, maybe only to San Diego in the lower 48. I miss the ballpark. The ballpark, it's the best ballpark, I think, in
It's
terms of
tremendous.
for a player. You can talk about the player, but for amenities, for broadcast, the booths are spacious enough without being outrageous, and they're not. They're built for late 20th century Americans. So there's a little bit. You got some elbow room. You can put your stuff down and comfort. So and the sight lines from the broadcast booth are as good, if not better, than anybody. So those are some of the things I'm going to miss.
All the years you've done the March Madness, still do a lot of football. My question to you: what's the biggest difference for you from doing TV to radio?
Yeah, radio, you have to describe everything because obviously people are just relying on their hearing sense. So I was an English minor. I had good vocabulary training at home and then in school. I learned there was a time I was sort of tutored by Marty Glickman, who was one of the great announcers, one of the first jock turned play-by-play guys, um, a legend here in New York City. And in 86 to 90, we were together at NBC Sports and MSG Network. And I did a lot of work with him and a lot of stuff I was doing intuitively, but he took it to another level. And so when I do radio, I'm describing almost every move. TV, you're just doing a caption service. Fly ball, right. When you sat in with us a couple times in Seattle, fly ball, Julio's got it 2 down. And radio, pitch swung on, high fly ball to center field. Julio's got to move a little bit to his left into the gap to make the one hand catch cap high 2 down here in the third. That's kind of description you got to make. The other day, the first game down in spring training, I remember it was against the Phillies. Schwarber was on third. No, it was at second. And no, he was at third. And here's a pitch swung on by Harper, fly ball, medium right field towards the line. Here comes Judge. He makes a catch near his logo, comes up with the throw to home plate to get Schwarber. The throw's on time, got him 2 down. That's the difference right there, as opposed to here's Judge. Here's the throw. Did he get him? He did. One of those kind
Yeah,
of things. You got to describe everything.
it's subtle, but it is different, and it's almost a radio. You're painting the picture for me. I got a question for you.
Name of the
This
game.
is
Name of
I'm
the
just
game. You got to paint the picture.
and I'm curious about this. I was driving around. Judge had 3 home runs. You were calling the game. I was listening to you on the radio. He hits the ball for a double. Was it his next at bat? Did the ball go off the wall? The double that he hit, do you remember?
I got part of that question, but it sounded like you were talking about a double, maybe a gapper.
The double that Judge hit after he hit the 3 home runs.
Oh, whoa, yeah.
Did that hit that ball hit the wall?
Yeah, it did. It hit about 2/3 of the way up. That's how close it was to having a fourth
Okay,
home
do you
run.
know what I'm impressed with, Dave? I'm sitting there and I'm listening because I listen to a lot of people. I know when I'm watching, I have a pretty good idea if what a ball is going to do. But the guy on the radio doesn't always get it right. Off the bat, you said a well hit ball to right. I don't think it's going to leave the yard, and it hit the wall. I was impressed with that. I said, "Look at Dave! Look at Dave making the call mid-flight."
Yeah, absolutely. Hey,
So
I played baseball I
That
didn't
was
play at the
great.
level you did. Thank you. I didn't play to your level, but I was a 4-year starter in high school and a year and a half in college at D3. Been watching since I was about that big, and I've listened to and studied so many broadcasters over the years. And having done this now 18 years and mostly on TV, but a lot on radio in Seattle. Reading the flight of the ball, watching the reaction of the outfielder. Here's the other thing too, Brett, that I think is different. I'm a little bit different from a lot of guys. I was a catcher, so I'm used to looking at the field and watching where everybody is. And I always like to make a point. Here's Judge. He's 2 for 2 today. He's hit the ball hard. A couple of singles right field. Left fielder straight away and deep. Same for the center fielder. And that third, and I said this a couple of times, that third baseman's got his heels on the grass guarding the line.
Yeah.
All right. And here's the first pitch there and takes it for ball one. That pitch sets up what it looks like. And then if he swings, wherever he mashes the ball, if he does mash it, you have an idea what the heck is going on. I've taken a lot of pride in that, especially now that I'm doing it every day. And I feel like my momentum is really growing inning by inning, pitch by pitch and describing everything. And the comfort level is just, it's just tremendous.
Through all this process, your partner now, Suzyn, did you talk with her a lot before the season started?
Yeah, the one thing I said, listen, on TV, you can have somebody in the booth and interview them, and the pitches go by. Nobody cares because they're watching. I said, I can't miss a pitch.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you as much. You'll have plenty of room to talk, but I got to have it to say, here's a 2-2 pitch into the wind. You have to finish that thought or pause and then come back. So we ironed that out quickly. That was in like the second game, and since then it's just been, hey, I get her reference points because we're close in age. She gets mine. We respect the data that's out there, but I don't want it on radio or TV for my money. I don't want to choke everybody with all the data numbers that are out there because, as you know, the way we cover the game is so much different from when you played, and the information it's overload. And I always said, and you'll appreciate this, Grandma in Bothell, Washington doesn't give a damn about, XYZ stat, expected batting average. Hey, did he get a freaking hit or not?
Right.
All right?
You can expect all you want.
Stuff. Yeah, I mean, hey, and the other thing, I still do the standard, he's hitting 295 at 22 home runs and 85 runs batted in. And if the OPS is out of sight, I'll say the OPS. And stolen base count, doubles, triples. And I got to call the action. I don't have time to it's not a math class.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I want to shift a little bit. You've got a show on Sirius XM. You've been doing it for a while with Mike Krzyzewski. Give me a little bit. What have you learned working with Coach K?
Well, we did 18 years, and I'm thrilled that Duke's in the Final Four again this year. I don't know Shire well, but I remember meeting him when we did a media coaching segment down there. You know what? The exactitude of how he does things, his preparation, his constant search for knowledge, his ability to communicate with players and people. He's got a sense of humor. He's one of the great ball breakers of all time. He was a West Point guy, but as they say, he cusses like a sailor. He's a real dude. And I find him, I've been around him for a lot, going back to when I was a young reporter, a reporter at the Daily News. He was at West Point. He was a basketball coach up there. And like I said, we did 18 years on Sirius XM, and I did a decent amount of his games over the years. I just learned that you got to put in the work. Teamwork is very important. Communication is very important. And just being a good person. I mean, his intensity, his knowledge of basketball, how to attack and counterattack is off the chart. And he's a huge baseball fan. Born and raised in Chicago, still a Cub fan.
Very cool. All right, you're 3 games in. Well, you'll be 3 games in, 3-0. Great start, Yankees. But I will ask you the question. I've got a buddy of mine Dave, it seems like 100 years now. He was the head rep for Louisville Slugger. He was the one when I was playing that from the time I was a rookie to the time I retired, took care of my bat orders. I was a pain in the ass. Now he's working for Chandler Bats, and I have him coming on soon to talk about the behind the scenes of this torpedo bat rage that everybody's talking about. And from what I understand, I'm going to get a little bit educated on it when I talked to him, but he said this started 2 years ago. Brought the MIT guy in. It started 2 years ago, just messing with people's swings. Now I think about from a player's perspective, and then I want to hear what the thoughts are buzzing around, when everybody's talking about it now. From a player's perspective, it's almost like your golf driver. Okay, when you look down at it, some just look good to your eye. Some holes set up for your shape shot or the shot shape, just like a bat. Man, I can pick a bat up and just feel it and look down the barrel, and it just really resonates. This feels good. This is going to give me the best chance to be successful. I could grab a great player's bat, and it's like I got no chance of getting a hit with this thing. So that's what it is. It's all about feel. I'll give you a quick story. I was in Seattle, one of my final years in Seattle, and I'm in spring training in Peoria, and there's a gentleman out there saying, "Hey, Bret, will you sign your grandfather's bat?" And I said, "Whoa, you've got one of Ray Boone's bats?" He goes, "I got one of your grandpa's game-used bats." I said, "Can I borrow that thing for about 20 minutes? I'll sign a bat for you if you do." He said, "Sure." He gives it to me. I took it in. I did my weighing, and I looked at it. It ended up being a 35-inch, 36-ounce. Back in the day, everything was heavy. You hear about Babe Ruth's bat being 40 ounces. I'll tell you, though, the way they made bats back then was completely different. They put all the weight in the handle, and they weren't as top heavy. So really, that 36-ounce bat, when I picked it up, it's like, I could use this. It feels light because of the weight distribution. So it's all about how the bat is built for your spec and what is for your swing. So when it comes up with this, people are, these are cheating bats, this and that. I said, they're really not cheating. They're not making the sweet spot bigger. They're just moving the sweet spot around to what fits your swing path. And it's not like everybody, and Aaron Judge and Ohtani, the stars of the game, with the numbers they've been putting up, I don't think they're going to be messing with the bats. I think the bats they're using are working just great. But if you have a particular swing that this can improve it, it's not outside the rules. Why not use it?
Well, everything was approved. What's the big deal? And
Exactly.
I said this earlier. Nobody came down from the mountaintop with this golden bat. Now everybody's going to hit 800. It doesn't work that way. And it's like you said about the golf. You got to get it fitted to your swing, to your body, to your physiology. It's not going to make Anthony Volpe a 60 home run guy. And Judge, yesterday we were standing around Judge. He was good enough to stop before he went to get something to eat or whatever it was. And he was asked, "Are you thinking about using this?" I said,
"Why would I do that?"
Are you kidding me? Come on. I'm hitting a million home runs. I'm, a two-time MVP, and he didn't say all this, but that, clearly, look at his face. It was almost like, the question had to be asked, but he answered it. And I was like, no, I'm good.
It's unbelievable because I try to explain to fans. I said, it's not a cheat code. It's what works for you. For me, I remember when I first came up, Ken Griffey Jr. was the guy, and we used the same bat, except for he used the cup bat. He cupped the end. For some reason, mentally, I couldn't cup my bats. I feel like I didn't have as much power the other way. It was probably just psychological, but it was in my mind. So I didn't cup them. That was my preference. Kenny liked them cupped. You move to somebody else. Edgar's bats were, I pick up Edgar's bats. I'd say, I don't know how you win batting titles with this thing. I'll hit 200 with your bat. So it's all a preference. And now, we're going to keep going forward technology wise. If you can find a club or a bat or a glove that works for you, go ahead.
Hey, darn well, too, there's no secrets in this game. Somebody finds out about that bat, when those guys release the bat, man, dudes were checking it out. Okay, that's not for me. Hey, he may like it. And then, you got X amount of guys using it. But it's not like all of a sudden, it's not like you're going to make a comeback now, okay? It's not, King Arthur's freaking sword. Come on. Take it easy.
And the funny thing to me is they lump, because the Yankees are off to such a great start, and they've got a couple guys using the bat. They lump all the home runs like like Volpe hit every single home run. Judge just hit 4 home runs with his normal bat that he's been using his whole life. And they don't talk about it. They just kind of lump it in like that's why the Yankees are hitting home runs. And it makes me laugh. It's going to be interesting from the technical standpoint behind the scenes what they're actually doing when I talk to Chuck coming up. But I just wanted to get your take because you're probably hearing about it the most because it's the Yankees are the ones that are
it's like you said, it's been around for 3 years. I mean, it wasn't like they came, hey, it's Saturday morning. Let's give the Yankees some bats. They're going to hit a hell. Stop. Hey, you know what? How bad the pitching was, okay? And I think Pat Murphy, the Milwaukee manager, would tell you that we threw some balls in the happy zones with regularity and found out about it.
Right.
So there you go.
and that team offensively is more than capable. Jazz Chisholm hitting a couple home runs. If you watched him last year down the stretch, that's not far fetched. Volpe has hit some home runs and is going to be is improving as a player. He's a young player. I just like everything else.
They got a lot of accomplished dudes, man. A lot of accomplished dudes already on that team with, as they say, with good numbers on the back of their scorecard. All right.
I agree.
It wasn't like they got some dudes off the street, off the subway, and say, "Hey, come on in, wear your Yankee pinstripe. You're gonna hit the ball out in a million miles with this new bat. Get out of here."
That's right. Well, Dave Sims, I appreciate it. Once again, congrats. Awesome. And I'm going to be hearing you a lot this year, listening to Yankee games. I appreciate you coming on, taking the time, and hopefully I'll see you this summer sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Look forward to it, Brett. Thanks a lot, man. Good to see you.
For those of you watching the Bret Boone podcast, now we got our own YouTube channel. Check it out. For those of you downloading the Bret Boone podcast on the Odyssey app or wherever you download your podcasts. Until next time, keep it here.